something in the water. There's something in the air. The proof is all around us. It's not a matter of time.
Hello and welcome to another fucking awesome episode of Everything They Don't Want You to Know. I'm your host, Jesse Blaze Snider, and let's just get right into it. Capitalism, at its core, it's a system that rewards innovation and efficiency. But when human suffering becomes the commodity, we enter a perilous territory where pain is profitable and healing is sidelined. Today we expose the industries that thrive on this model, perpetuating cycles of misery for financial gain. This is the suffering industrial complex. So let's start with the one that brought me to this conversation today. This wasn't news to me, but a friend of mine shared it with me, and just a recent a guy who's running for mayor, I think, I forget where, but he was talking about the problem with homelessness is that it's become a fucking big business. Yeah, there's a homeless industrial complex with an annual revenue of $21.9 billion in 2024. This is U.S. community housing, homeless shelters. They are generating billions off the backs of homeless people. We got a funding model that allocates resources based on shelter occupancy, not successful transition to permanent housing. So if your system is based on how many homeless people do you have, depends on how much money your establishment gets, well, what do you want? You want homeless people. More homeless people is what is required when your system is incentivizing that way. If we were incentivizing successful transitions from homeless to permanent housing, well, maybe the system would be a little bit different, but that's not the way. In cities like New York, the shelter system has been criticized for prioritizing profit over effective solutions. And it's not just there. It's everywhere. Most people like to talk about the prison industrial complex. The prison industrial complex generates $3.9 billion annually, a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. And the private prisons alone, the private prisons by themselves, they're the ones who are generating $3.9 billion. And I've talked about this before. The prison industrial complex is actually partially owned by the music business. And there was a terrible meeting about 20 years ago, I think in the late 90s. There's like 2 or 3 whistleblowers. You can go find their interviews of them talking about the meeting that they were invited into, where they were told that the record industry had bought into the prison industrial complex and that the record producers and songwriters who were working for them were going to help them to keep these prisons filled. How would they do that? By teaching urban youth criminality, glorifying drug culture, gangbang culture. I mean, it's so funny to me that you got all these people wearing their pants baggy, which is something from prison that the gay guys who were looking for sex were doing. Oh, I got my butt sticking out of my pants. So the other people, and then that's in the, how did something like that transition from this gay thing in prison to being an on-the-street style? Well, these are choices that were made by the people who were trying to take that culture and deliver it directly to the poor youth of America. And I say poor youth of America because it's not just the black kids. It's all of the kids who are coming from these low income areas. And they're being inundated with fucking crime pornography. Things that make criminality look good. And why is that? Because we need full prisons to get paid. We need a prison that's filled up with people. That's how you get paid when you're a private prison. Oh, how many prisoners do you have? Well, we'll give you the money. Incarcerated individuals often earn an average of 86 cents per day, highlighting exploitative labor practices. The system disproportionately affects marginalized communities, perpetuating cycles of poverty and incarceration. Yeah, like I just said. When you have a society that a chunk of the society is benefiting from, financially benefiting from, taking care of their families from, keeping other people locked up, this leads to longer prison sentences. This leads to practices within the prisons where there are a number of ways to extend your stay. If you don't do this, if you don't do that, if you don't do this, anything that extends your stay helps them to profit. Anything that extends your stay as a homeless person in the world helps these shelters to continue to get paid. There are various programs, around from the government that they'll give you money depending on what your problem is. You can apply for this, apply for that. Well, it's all about how bad is your poverty? What can you say your numbers are? The numbers game is a terrible thing in America and in the world. You know, a mayor can reevaluate the way we're looking at various numbers in a lot of ways. They can change all of a sudden the severity of a certain crime so that all of a sudden the number of misdemeanors versus the number of, what's the opposite of misdemeanors? Sorry, I'm blanking out on the right term. But the number of crimes that, we're the crime is going down because look, it's all misdemeanor, or misdemeanors have gone up. But the real bad crime is going down. Well, that can be changed with the stroke of a pen and a redefinition of what is a misdemeanor and what is like a more, I wish I can't find the fucking word I'm looking for, a heavier crime, a capital crime. If we move into healthcare and chronic diseases, this, oh my God, I mean, there's so many aspects to this because, we'll get into next, the pharmaceutical industry. But, the U.S. healthcare spending, it reaches $4.9 trillion in 2023, with 90% allocated to chronic and mental health conditions, okay? So 90% of $4.9 trillion is for people who have chronic, something that they're living with, AIDS, diabetes, pick your poison, or a host of mental health conditions. And when you think of mental health, you think of something of like, oh, my depression was acting up today, and but now it's gone. No, there's no now it's gone. There's an ongoing treatment. How many people do you know who cured themselves of their anxiety, of their depression, of all these things? I've dealt with a lot of mental health things. I've made huge improvements upon the quality of my mental health as far as anxiety or depression and stuff like that. Like depression, I would say I have probably cured myself of my depression. But anxiety, anxiety is like a learned pattern. I was just outside taking my notes on this thing, sitting next to Digger, and he's like, "Yeah, stop shaking your leg," because this is this thing for my anxiety patterns. I still can't exactly get myself to stop shaking my leg. And some of these things, I mean, like, I can fucking live with that. I don't need to be medicating this into oblivion. But if I wanted to, is it going to be a bip, 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 and my mental health is all gone? No. These are just bottomless money pits that taxpayers and, the government is subsidizing and helping to get along. So much of this money that they are generating, this 4.9 trillion, it's being sucked from the government directly and indirectly sucked from us, taken out of the pockets of people who do have their shit together. People who are healthy and are working and are paying taxes. I mean, who do you think pays for all that shit? It's not the people who are losing their minds and can't, have debilitating injuries or debilitating illnesses, who can't show up at work consistently and whatnot. It's not those people. It's the other people taking care of them. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't take care of other people, because I believe that we should take care of other people. But the systems shouldn't be made so that we are not trying to make it so that there is less of a burden on all of these people and there are less people to be taken care of. And none of these systems are being thought about in these ways, because the way our capitalist system works, the more people there are to treat, the more people there are in the prison, in the shelter, the more money there is to be had from the companies that are capitalizing upon these systems. Chronic diseases like diabetes and heart disease are often preventable, yet the system emphasizes treatment over prevention. And preventable, definitely, and we can undo the damage. They just aren't interested in that. I have a friend of mine he's got cancer right now. And he's kind of caught up in like the social media, I have cancer thing. I've got cancer. I tell my friends on social media. My friends send me messages about how happy they are. Not how happy they are, but like, oh man, solidarity, we love you. You're going to get through this. And then I start going through my chemotherapy and I make posts about my chemotherapy and everybody checks in to tell me, oh, you're doing so good and you're such a star and get through the chemotherapy. Well, the fucking third time you do chemotherapy, you don't live. You don't survive. Most people do not survive that third round of chemotherapy when your cancer comes back a third fucking time. And it tends to for those with cancer, because nobody is being taught what is really causing cancer. And there are a couple factors to this, just to talk about cancer for a second. It's become pretty obvious based on some of the most cutting edge research that cancer is actually a parasitic infection. What seems like cancer is your body trying to sort of like put a divider between the parasites and your good, healthy tissues in your body. And when people go about their cancer by way of getting rid of parasites, using things like ivermectin, they have incredible and long-lasting results. More deeply, though, those people who may be curing their cancer through these parasitic cleanses and whatnot, there is a spiritual problem associated with cancer. Every single disease has an energetic problem. It seems so silly to turn that energy into a single word to describe what is really causing a disease or a injury or anything. But it is the truth. When it comes to cancer, the majority of the time, it's being caused by anger. These individuals who do not deal with their anger in a meaningful way, the cancer comes back. It doesn't matter how many times they do away with the physical cancer. The cancer is only being allowed to form because you have the energy in your body to allow for the conditions for it to grow. And in this case, anger is a very big contributing factor. Been reaching out to my friend and trying to break him of his mind of just going with the system and doing what the system's told you to do. I've got cancer, so now it's time to go do chemotherapy, and now I'm going to lose my hair. And don't do it. There are other ways, and you must go deeper. They are not interested in improving your cancer. They are interested in you living with it long term so you can be part of that $4.9 trillion that they made in 2023. Do you know that obesity-related conditions, weight-related conditions by themselves, they cost the U.S. healthcare system $1.72 trillion annually just by themselves. So 4.9 trillion total, 1.72 trillion of that is just because people are overweight. And now we have a culture that glorifies obesity. We want to tell people that it's okay to be overweight. Why? Because it makes them money. 1.72 trillion annually. If you are overweight, dealing with a chronic disease caused by your weight, you're feeding the machine. The pharmaceutical industry has been valued at $634.32 billion in 2024. And it's projected to reach $883.92 billion by 2030. Americans, we pay significantly more medications for our medications compared to other countries. Our prices are up to 278% higher for the same medication. Why? How can this be? Well, because the system is designed with the insurance plan paying for it or the government paying for it somehow. And what happens? What happens when it's a union job? How do all these nails cost us $10 each? Well, that's how much we chose to mark up the price on the nails. That's how much we chose to mark up the price on all these drugs. 278% higher. Thank you, American capitalism. And I'm not somebody who hates on American capitalism. I do believe in innovation and progress can be made through a capitalist system in a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful way and fast. But not like this. Not when there are people at the tippy top of the light bulb industry who are going to go buy the patent for the light bulb that lasts forever so that nobody can have that. And instead, the light bulb industry can keep selling you the same shitty light bulbs that only last a year over and over and over and over again. They keep selling light bulbs. You keep buying them. However, we already had the light bulb that would last for forever, and you'd only have to replace it if it broke. What a wonderful thing that would be in this world. But nah, the light bulb industry doesn't want that. And in America, these astronomically high drug prices limits access to essential medications. And this, man, fucking makes all these health disparities so much worse. One of the amazing things that fucking Trump did, of all people, and again, I've got a fairly even thing about Trump, and I say this to him, to you, and to him as a compliment to him. But it blew me away compared to everything that everybody was saying about Donald Trump. Donald Trump lowered the price of insulin. The price of insulin had gone sky high. It was insane. There was an insulin dark market. And there's so much craziness with fucking insulin. There's so many people who needed insulin. And when this information had come out at the time, Obama was in office. And I thought for sure Obama would do something about this. The fact that he didn't was one of the first clear indications to me that he wasn't real. He wasn't there to actually improve anything for anyone. He was just there to be a good smiling face that made it seem like things might improve. But underneath his leadership, things did not improve. They got worse, much worse. There was a few drugs that Trump lowered the price for. And in fact, when Joe Biden got back to the office, he raised the price back to what it was. And then lowered the price later, but in a different way that was more beneficial to the system's profit margins. That's who the Democrats are, ultimately. And plenty of the Republicans, too. The Republicans are just a little bit harder to control because the Republican Party is made up of a lot of mavericks, libertarians, and similar type people who just don't want to be fucking told what to do. The Democrats, however, they work jointly. They say the exact same thing. They back the exact same plan. They are all in cahoots with themselves and with the industries, because they believe that being in cahoots and working with these industries is the only way that the industries are going to cooperate with the people to make a better world. Except the people never get a fucking better world. We just get our liberal politicians cooperating with the system to make a more draconian slave world, which is what we're living under. What else is part of this suffering industrial complex? How about the foster care system? In 2012, federal, state, and local governments spent approximately $27.7 billion on child welfare services, including foster care. Now, don't scoff at these billion numbers. I saw a fucking liberal Democratic meme that was going around this past week talking about how the federal budget is like $6 trillion and all of these cuts that Doge is making is only hundreds of billions of dollars. Shut the fuck up right now. We should just be wasting hundreds of billions of dollars. It's not effective for us to go in and save these hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars because, man, that's only like 10-20% of the whole budget, man. You're not cutting anything. You're not making any worthwhile cuts. Shut the fuck up. You got to start somewhere. $27.7 billion is a lot. I know that the pharmaceuticals industry, $634 billion is more. I know that the healthcare and chronic disease, $4.9 trillion is more. But $27.7 billion on child welfare services. Children in foster care face instability with frequent placements and limited support for long-term well-being. And why do they have so many frequent placements? Because I don't want to say most, but many of the people who are profiting from the foster care system are not good people looking to make the world a better place by taking care of some kids. They are people looking to make money off the system. And with $27.7 billion going into it, there is plenty of money to be made. The system we have right now prioritizes administrative processes over the best interests of children all the time. When states are able to profit from how many children are taken from their families and put into foster care, you have a system that is incentivizing that, if it's questionable, let's just take them from their kids. Let's just take these kids from their families because, there's profit to be made on our end. This gets us into gray territory where instead of people being with their fucking families, their mothers and their fathers, they're put into a system where where now More money is being spent. The taxpayers are paying more money, all this shit. But it's good for this system. It's good for the states. They make more money because they took more children from the parents. Dude, what is this? What is this? There are documentaries you can watch on kids getting taken from parents who wanted their kids, were taking good care of their kids. It was just a fucking misunderstanding or whatever it was. And these kids have disappeared for various periods of time, didn't know where they were, eventually had to fucking track them down and find them. And some of the stories that come out when you find out these kids went through the foster care system and what happened to them. And those are just the kids who are willing to talk about it. Do you know how many fucking children and women are raped and just don't want to talk about it? They don't want to tell anyone. They don't want anyone to know. I just watched the movie last night, Rob Roy. I'd never seen it before. Really excellent movie. And it's a period piece. It's like in the similar time period of Braveheart and in Scotland. And there is the wife of one of these the main character who gets raped. And she so desperately doesn't want her husband to know. She doesn't want him to find out. What would it say about him? What would it say about her? All these things. And what a wonderful thing it is when he finds it, because she's pregnant. And it could be her husband's baby, but it might be her rapist's. And this husband lovingly tells his children, we're going to have another kid. And he refuses to let it be a bad thing, to let his wife suffer like this when she has to tell him. But she didn't want to tell him for all these reasons. There's so many reasons why people who have been victims of abuse don't want to tell people. And our foster care system, oh boy, does it lead to a lot of abuse, let alone people going missing. And that's a whole other subject for another day. People fucking disappearing into our damn foster care system and disappearing in general. Another reason why the foster care system, they need kids because it's profitable. Profitable when you're taking care of them, and profitable even more so when you're disappearing them and selling them to people on the black market. Another aspect of this industrial complex of suffering is the student debt complex. As of the fourth quarter of 2024, Americans owed, wait for it, $1.62 trillion in student loan debt. Just think about this for a second. This is an abstraction. 1.62 trillion in student loan debt. So they've already learned, they've already done the thing. And the leftover amount is that in order to go in and teach themselves and to learn something, there is still an accumulated $1.5 trillion in debt from student loans. Of course, there are many systemic issues causing this, like rising tuition costs and interest rates, which have made higher education increasingly unaffordable. And this is like the same thing with like the housing market, like what our parents paid for a house and what you're going to pay for a house. Holy shit. And I mean, it's not even double. Orders of magnitude greater. And when the system can say, oh yeah, you can go to college just like your parents before you. Oh yeah, it's more expensive, but don't worry, take out a college loan. No, we built these college loans for you, the student who's going to go to school and is going to get valuable life skills so that they can go into the workforce and make money. And over time, they'll be able to pay these loans off. And now for college, kids are paying 30 years worth of fucking loans off the same way they were paying 30 years worth of loans off for a house just, let's say, 20 years ago. And of course, that's still going on, but the prices are increasing. And what you're paying monthly is increasing. The biggest problem here, too, is that this debt burden, it disproportionately affects low-income and minority students, which exacerbates income inequality. And what do we got here, right? All these colleges all across the nation who are DEIing and getting as many black kids and all these opportunities for all these low-income people from the... Dude, those people are 10 times as likely to be stuck in this debt slavery forever because they don't come from a place where they have any family or anybody who might be able to sign for them for a loan or like case in point, one of the main advantages, you can call it white privilege, you can call it fucking, just having been a fucking immigrant longer in the, my family's been in this country longer. And we've had the ability to get ourselves into, let's say, a reasonable place. My ex-wife's dad, he had his own business. He made good money. So when it was time for us to get a house or something like that, even though my work was, I make a lot of money. When I make, when I was a voiceover actor or whatever else, I'm making almost $500,000. Well, not $500,000 a year, but like at least well over $250,000 a year, doing a really good job in the voiceover world or whatever. But still, that job, comes along kind of out of nowhere, and maybe 6 months into, I've got a whole bunch of these jobs and I'm making some consistent money. I'm like, okay, we could get a house, we could afford a house, but no, we can't. Because you got to go to the bank, you got to show them how this money's consistent, it's coming in all the time, and the bank will go, well, there's no guarantee that you're still going to be the voice of Pizza Hut or the voice of GameStop or any of this shit a year from now. So I can't get a loan by myself. I need somebody to sign for me. Somebody who owns land, somebody who owns a house, somebody who has a more consistent income, who can say, well, if Jesse can't do this, I'm here and I will back him up. And in order to do that, I have to go to those people and I have to say, hey, listen, I know this is a big deal. I promise, I got this going on, this going on, this going on. We will do it. And I've never had somebody sign for me and had it go badly, and had to, screw them over in any way, fortunately. But it can be a great difficulty. And somebody, a student loan or otherwise, a house that they had the other I had my mom sign her house. She signed on the thing. She said she'd back it up with the collateral. But well, now your mom can lose her house if you can't fucking figure that shit out. And now these kids who don't have anything like that, coming from a freaking low economic area, they're, black or Hispanic or whatever it might be, and they get into the college because of the DEI initiative and whatever, all these programs that are there. So they've gotten in. But for them, for all these minority kids, it is much harder for them to pay back this debt. And the people in their lives surrounding them, they don't have as many bits of support. They might not even have anybody in their life who even knows anything about taking out a loan or any of this stuff. So the more underprivileged people we get into that college system, the more underprivileged people we are putting under the gun of severe debt slavery. And don't you think that this makes it more likely that these people who are impoverished with all these fucking debts are going to take jobs when they're morally questionable, when they're asked to do morally questionable things? Because if I don't do this, I'm going to fucking be homeless. I need to do this. I have no other choice. This system, as you'll see, is a system of making it so people don't have another choice. Drugs. Drugs are so fucking prevalent in America, everywhere. But, You'll hear things about the CIA involved in these things, or even worse things about presidents involved in having military occupations of poppy fields and things like this. And you go, what? Like, don't we have a drug epidemic in our communities in America? Why would we be propping up drug cartels or helping this shit in any way, shape, or form? Well, did you know that the U.S. addiction treatment market is valued at $3.49 billion? That was 2024. It's expected to reach $6 billion by 2034. So in the next 10 years, our industry is about to double. And you know that there are people in fucking boardrooms and at conventions for freaking addiction treatment talking about, our industry is going to be twice as profitable. We need to expand in all these ways. And the expansion, is the expansion going to lead to less addiction and more people being helped? No. It's going to lead to more profit being made on the backs of those who are addicted and those who are related to or taking care of the people who are addicted. Treatment access is limited by cost and availability. And this leaves many people without necessary support. We don't want treatments that people can't afford, especially ones that don't have long-term benefits, especially when there's things that like ayahuasca, where we're sending fucking heroin addicts and cocaine addicts and fucking alcoholics to do ayahuasca, and they're getting over their addictions because their addictions aren't about their addictions. Just like the cancer is ultimately being caused by anger, the addictions have other, more emotional causes. And when you get down to the bottom of that, when people are able to work with these plant medicines and get an empathetic treatment from these plant spirits that help them to understand why they're addicted, why they're caught in these patterns, why they're stuck in these loops, and guide them to more beneficial ways of taking care of themselves, that's effective. Done. No longer is there an addict here. And when it comes to addiction, there's a lack of standardized care. You know, how do we do this? You know, is it not AAA? Is it AA? A lot of addicts are put into AA, even though that's Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's a religious, attack on the subject. I mean, hey, I'm not knocking AA. It's good for lots of people, but having a more clear answer to how to approach these things would make it easier to do away with the addiction and to have better outcomes, to be getting people off of this addiction train. But instead, when what to do is obfuscated, well, then it's just a fucking whole capitalist thing of like, well, what's the best sales pitch? Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. And to a certain degree, the more they don't work, the better. The addiction industry is going to double by 2034. Billions of dollars. How about the mental health industry? Global mental health market valued at $423.16 billion in 2024. That one's projected to hit $625.7 billion by 2033. And mental health services are often underfunded and inaccessible, leading to a lot of untreated conditions. But the untreated conditions means crazy people out in the world being homeless, crazy people out in the world being locked up in prison forever and ever and ever, fueling the industrial complex, fueling the fucking the shelters. How many shelters are filled with addicts? How many shelters are filled with people whose mental health is terrible? How many of the prisons are filled with these same people? The mental health industry and the addiction industry is worth billions of dollars. But then the homeless industry and the prison industry, billions of dollars. And when these people are functioning okay, what are they in? They're in the healthcare system, worth trillions of dollars. In the pharmaceutical industry, almost. And what about the foster care system? Who's got the most kids in the foster care system? You think it's the guys who are going to jail? Maybe because they've got mental health issues? Maybe it's because they've got drug problems? Maybe? Probably? Those are probably their parents? It's all one thing. And they're profiting on it. They're profiting on all of our suffering and all of the suffering of the people around us. I mentioned before how much of the health industry, $1.5 trillion, it's all about illnesses that are created from bad health, obesity. Well, there's an obesity industry on top of that part of the obesity industry. The global obesity treatment market size was valued at $15.92 billion in 2024. It's anticipated to grow at a CAGR of 22.31% from 2025 to 2030. And basically that just means, like every year it's going to raise 22.31%. The food industry promotes unhealthy products, and this contributes to rising obesity rates. At the tippy top of our stock market, you have what is essentially a new kind of monopoly, where the richest people on planet Earth own controlling stakes in everything to such a degree as they can manipulate the markets with impunity, and anything that they do in one market that adds to the profitability of another industry is great for them because they own little pieces of the entire market. So when they promote unhealthy foods that make us fat, they're not just profiting on the addictive nature of the food that they're making, but they're profiting from the fact that this is ruining our health. And now we've got a bunch of diseases that are chronic, and now they get to make money from us there. You know that when the cigarette industry got really put on blast at a certain point, forget the time period now, all of the people all the scientists, the chemical scientists who have been working for the cigarette industry to make their products more addictive, those scientists all of a sudden moved into the food additive industry. And they have been creating addictive food additives ever since. A lot of these things are things that people like RFK Jr. are now targeting. And many people have talked about this stuff over the years. But it's a whole industry of making you fat and sick. And because they own all of the most meaningful industries in the world, the fat fucking cat, the Rockefellers and Rothschilds, all these people who just own big controlling shares of industries, obfuscated by various board members in this board and that organization, whatever else. They've created a system designed to pet itself. Hey guys, we want to make more money in the medical industry, in the pharmaceutical industry. All right, well over here in the food industry, we'll make everyone fat and unhealthy. Great idea. High five. And this isn't even to mention fucking weight loss products. when you start to think about the various ways in which we are being advertised to all the time, exercise and gyms. And I mean, you don't need a gym. I mean, I like a gym. It's nice to go to a gym, but you don't need one. There are parks. They're free. You've got legs. You can walk. You can do handstands. You can do push-ups. You can do pull-ups. You don't have to go to a fucking gym. But here it is, promoted to us over and over and over again. Why? Because there's an industry there. An obesity industry. From what's his face, who used to be on the thing with the curly hair. Come on, shake those buttocks, let's get them off. Telemarketing, not telemarketing, televangelizing weight loss to us in various ways. And a lot of the people being, like they need to make changes in their diet. They need to do something about the way they're living. No amount of this weight loss thing or that weight loss thing is going to do anything for them. So then what happens then? Again, we don't have a system where people are getting better. We've got an industrial complex of obesity, but it's all designed to get rid of that obesity. No, obesity is increasing. I feel so bad for the Mexican Hispanic populace that comes from Mexico, because when I go to like water parks and stuff like that, I see the obesity epidemic running rampant through the Hispanic community. And it is because most of them are newer to the country, and they have not had the time that like white America and even good portions of black America have had with our pharmaceutical industry, with our food industry. We have an idea about what they've been doing, how fucking poisonous this food is, how bad it is for you. A lot of these people, where there's a language barrier on top of it, they don't speak English, and they come here and they want to get the cheapest food. They don't want to spend a lot of money on the food. They're just trying to buy the cheapest food that they can. Who's buying organic food? The people who understand how important it is to eat food that was grown correctly and isn't filled with as much pesticides. So many of the immigrants to our country, they don't know. And and I just put a highlight on the Hispanic community, because being in California, there's really a lot of Hispanic people, and it is totally a matter of a lack of education on the reality of what American industry has done to our food system. And their health is worse, and their weight and physicality is worse, because they don't know. They got here a little later than we did. We've been here and we've been listening to what they've been doing. We've been going, oh, fuck, I'm going to avoid gluten because there's too much fucking Roundup in the damn wheat. Whatever it may be. We've had just a little bit of extra time. And a community like the Hispanic people who are coming up from Mexico, we're coming in, we can't speak English very good, and we're not being educated immediately because there's no fucking incentive from the industries here to tell those Hispanic people, oh no, don't buy all this cheap food, it's poison. Who's going to tell them? Who? The industry of war has been talked about at length by any number of people. U.S. arms exports reached a record $318.7 billion in fiscal year 2024. A record. A record. We shouldn't be breaking records like this. Not now. Not ever. Since World War fucking II, that number should be going down and down and down and down, because we don't want more war. We don't want more suffering. We should have been looking at ways to make sure this shit never happens again in any way, shape, or form. And yet here we are with record fucking profits in 2024. And that is a 29% increase from 2023. military conflicts are prolonged or initiated simply to benefit defense contractors. And these massive defense budgets, they divert funds from all sorts of essential social services. Whether it's keeping our fucking roads up to date, pollution, there's so many friggin' things that could be done with the $1 trillion military industrial complex. The amount of money that we spend for war dwarfs every other nation on planet Earth by orders of magnitude, including Russia. Now, there are some reasons for this, and there are some things, additional pieces of information that I would point to that do seem very likely and very credible, which is that part of the reason why we spend so much money on this is actually this money is being funneled into secret programs. Lots of secret space programs, lots of covert action. And that's why they'll make a big press thing and they'll be like, look at all of these jet fighters that we made. That's what we used your trillions of dollars to make all these jet fighters. Did you? Really? Is that what you fucking used? All that money to make trillions? Okay, whatever. Bullshit. Lots of people don't know this or think about this or whatever. The people who funded the Nazis are the same people who funded the Allies. And those people have never been brought to justice. Every war is funded by the same people, and they fund both sides. Whoever you think are the good guys and whoever you think are the bad guys. They all get their money from the same place, the same system. Every single time we go to war, it benefits the same people. This military-industrial complex. People profiting on other people's suffering. People profiting on death. That's what they said to Iron Man, right? In the Iron Man movie, people called you the merchant of death. He was a merchant of death. And when he realized that he was a merchant of death, when he realized that his weapons were being sold to the bad guys, he said, no, I can't be part of this anymore. And that's why we call Tony Stark a hero, because he saw the absurdity in the military-industrial complex and sought to change it. That's what heroes do. Now, honestly, the biggest and oldest industrial complex of suffering on planet Earth comes from our magic money system. It's the debt slavery complex. As of 2024, the U.S. national debt has surpassed $33 trillion, with interest payments becoming one of the largest federal expenditures. Right now, Joann Fabrics and a bunch of other stores are being put out of business, though they are profitable. It's the same thing that happened to Toys R Us, I think, like a decade ago. Though profitable, Toys R Us is no longer with us. How? Why? How does that happen? Joann Fabrics? I shop there all the time. They're a great shop. They're one of the few places where you can go to get certain types of do-it-yourself items. Well, the companies that bought Joann Fabrics decided to get really bad loans and to set up their business so that their profit was only paying back the interest on their really bad loans that they got. What does that do? Well, it means that they're not like bettering themselves. They're not doing the thing that any normal business owner would do, be like, all right, I'm going to try to build myself up so that maybe I could buy the land underneath the building so then I can be my own landlord and I don't have to pay rent to this person here. They set themselves up to be perpetually in a deficit, paying interest forever and never being able to get out from underneath their debt. This literally sets it up so that these businesses will eventually go out of business even when they are profitable. I think it was 94 or 95% of all the Joann Fabric stores are profitable, but not when all of their profit is going to pay interest on a loan that they shouldn't have fucking taken in the first place. The financial system encourages perpetual debt through credit cards, loans, and mortgages. Economic policies favor lenders, and this traps individuals and nations in cycles of debt. They always favor the lender. The money system supports itself. It supports its banks. It supports its bankers. For everybody else, this is just a form of slavery, of indentured servitude. 33 trillion in debt and counting. And that debt is designed to keep increasing forever. This is the plan. This is what they want, because it makes them money and it keeps us all in poverty. Finally, the charity and philanthropy industry. The U.S. nonprofit sector reports revenues of over $2.62 trillion in 2021. $2.62 trillion. Okay? This is charity and philanthropy. They're making $2.62 trillion. How is it that there's still any poor people? How is it that we still need charity and philanthropy? 2.62 trillion? Surely that's got to be making a dent in this system, is it not? How is it not? Well, many charities have been criticized for mismanagement and lack of transparency, which the majority of them, oh my God, the lack of transparency. Places like the fucking Red Cross, holy shit. The amount of times we've investigated these fuckers, and people still, the Red Cross, everybody knows the Red Cross, the Red Cross. Don't give to the Red Cross. Don't donate at these stores to the charities that these corporations have chosen for you. Don't allow yourself to feel guilty when the person at the CVS says, do you want to donate $2 to me? No, I do not. Abso-fucking-lutely not. No, I do not. No, I do not want to give more money to this system of corruption that they like to call charity and philanthropy, but makes no progress in this world whatsoever. Philanthropic efforts serve as tax shelters and means to exert influence. They are not purely altruistic endeavors. Bill Gates is not a fucking philanthropist. He is not a superhero. Go read Steve Jobs' book like I did when I was fucking 15. Listen to the man, Bill Gates. Listen to how he likes to do his business. And tell me if that's a man with a charitable nature, a philanthropic spirit. No, he doesn't have one. He's a piece of shit pursuing profit, like all of the famous rich people that you know for the most part. Elon Musk may be an exception to that. Not that I think he's a good guy. I think he's a plant. I think they chose him I think he's a smart guy that they chose to be the face of one of their secret societies. Whether it's the fucking Freemasons or one of the religious orders, it doesn't matter. People like Bill Gates, George Soros, these guys are in this game to control the world one way or another. And every single time they put their money into some charity or some philanthropic project, what they are really doing is laundering their own money, putting it into the system in a very specific way, usually a calculated way, so that they will get back more of it through the system, as well as tax breaks and incentives that will help them to keep more of their money and keep more of their power. Over the years, the tax code has been lobbied and lobbied and lobbied, and every single thing that a really wealthy person with money could think of to have the system do to protect its profits, these things are in place. You just have to know how the tax code works. And then you can go in and you can take advantage the same way Donald Trump did and the same way Donald Trump told us he did, just like everybody fucking else did. And I respect the fuck out of that. You kidding me? People were fucking mad at him for speaking the truth. Fuck you, asshole. You can't hear the fucking truth. This man just said they are all using the system. It's fucked up. It shouldn't be like that. But I'm not going to sit there and not be able to keep my money when all these other motherfuckers are keeping their money. How am I supposed to compete in a business world against people who are taking advantage of the system when I don't? He's right. He's right. This is money laundering through suffering. Beyond the direct profits, these industries engage in complex financial practices that resemble fucking money laundering. Funds flow through various channels, nonprofits, research grants, lobbying efforts, making it impossible to trace the origins and destinations of money. This opacity can obscure accountability, and it perpetuates the cycle of profit from pain. Just saying all this shit out loud to you guys, because I know this. I think about it all the time. But putting this fucking list together, putting together all this information this morning, I just kept going, oh my fucking God. It's so insidious. And so many of the pieces, connect to each other. The debt slavery and the war complex. I mean, affecting what? Poor people. Poor people. This is just a system of hurting poor people. And uneducated people. And I don't mean uneducated like they didn't get to go to school, because in school they don't fucking teach you anything about obesity. They're not teaching you about how to cook a fucking healthy meal. They don't teach you about what the hell's going on in the farming practices of America. I mean street smart people who educate themselves on the way of the world. A lack of education there. People who are not savvy are being taken advantage of by this disgusting system of suffering and profit. We have to break the fucking cycle. And it starts by you and I understanding what the cycle is, understanding just how many industries are affected by this, just how many people are affected by this, just how much money is at play. The suffering industrial complex thrives on systems that prioritize profit over people. Addressing these issues requires systemic change, transparency, and a commitment to valuing human well-being over financial gain. Awareness is the first step. By understanding the depth and breadth of these interconnected systems, we can advocate for policies and practices that truly serve the public interest. But until then, We are just living in this fucking mess. We are living in the suffering industrial complex. I'm Jesse Blaze Snider, the coolest geek alive. For those of you who watch or listen to my geek culture show, my entertainment show every Wednesday and Saturday. Saturday, I do picks for great movies, great TV shows that you might like. Wednesdays, I take an overall look at the industry in one way or another, or an overall look at something really great that you might want to get into. If you enjoy entertainment like most people do, you should check out the show. I make a lot of really, really great recommendations that'll lead to hours and hours and hours of your happiness if you take any of my advice. I promise you. I like to know things, but I also like to enjoy things. And really, that's my show, my two shows. Everything I Don't Want You to Know is me liking to know things. And Coolest Geek Alive is me liking to enjoy things. Let's make the fucking best of this place while we're here. Let's imagine better and bring it into reality. So if you want to get that perspective on the entertainment industry, please check out Coolest Geek Alive every Wednesday, every Saturday. My music show, All Your Favorite Bands Suck, will be coming back soon enough. I just have to reformat the thing to get us back on Spotify, but we're still on iTunes. We're still everywhere else where fucking podcasts are available to listen to. And you can check out that show. There's like 55 of my favorite bands, hour-long shows just recommending great albums and great music to you. And the final thing is, you can go now to bldsts.com and you can sign up for notifications for Sugar and Bones magazine. It's a heavy metal magazine type thing, a comic book anthology, plus magazine elements. I'm working with some of my best friends, Aaron Sparrow, Digger Mesh, really, really brilliant artists like Steve Kurth and Ty Blackwood. And I'm really super excited about that. And, we're going to be promoting it over the next few months and launching it in probably 60 days or something like that. So check out Sugar and Bones magazine. You can find that through the Kickstarter as well. If you just type in Kickstarter, into your web browser and go to Kickstarter and go Sugar and Bones magazine, you can sign up for notifications there too. But bldsts.com, blacklightdistrictstudios.com, that is my company's website, and you can sign up for notifications right there. You can also get back issues for King of Kings, Fucking for Our Future, other books that we did as well. Anyway, I love you guys. I love you guys for listening to the show. I love you guys for supporting anything that I do, whether it's my music or my comic books or anything at all. You guys rule. Thanks so much for listening to the show, being here all the way to the end here. I love you guys. Care Bear Stare, man. I hope you'll join me again next Monday for another fucking, probably devastating episode of Everything They Don't Want You to Know. Care Bear Stare. Stay safe.
There's something in the water. There's something in the air. The proof is all around us.
The symptoms are everywhere.
It's not a matter of time, sure as the blaze in your eyes. I sense a subtle shift, instincts I can't resist, weary of wolves in disguise. Drunk on a gallon of wine, red as the rivers you dried. Bad apples spoil the punch, bruises and rotten fronts. You've got a thirst you can't hide.
There's something in the water. There's something in the air. The proof is all around us. The symptoms are everywhere. There's something in the water. There's something in the air. The proof is all around us.
The symptoms are everywhere.
Might be a fault of design, a bark as bad as its bite. Fooled by a flash of teeth, sharp tongues that lie beneath, words that could eat you